Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on keeping Sitecore and Google Analytics in sync using GTM. I'm David Ruckman, and I'm joined by Walt Rowley of RDA Corporation. The two of us presented this Sitecore solution at Sitecore Symposium 2019, and since that time there's been a great deal of interest in this solution, so we thought we'd put together a short webinar and just walk through the basics of it. Let me hand it over to Walt, and he's going to talk through an introduction. Hey, Walt.
Hey, thanks, David. Yeah, I'll set it up here. David did all the hard work and cool engineering behind this, so it's really exciting. Just to talk about the scope of this presentation and what the solution does. It's using Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager. The free versions of those. So when we talk about some of the things that Sitecore does beyond that, the reason there is we're comparing it to the free version. And then, of course, Sitecore's analytics that come with the XP and XC licenses is what's included. So that's the landscape. So, why bother capturing analytics in two different places? Well, as most of us know, there's broad familiarity with Google Analytics. It's on many of the websites. It's usually a good starting point. But then when you implement Sitecore, you get another whole host of analytics. And also, Sitecore is going to track down to an individual level, not just the aggregate level, even if the visitor doesn't self-identify, which is a pretty cool feature, and it can definitely be a strong marketing tool. Now on the GA side, you've got that integration with ads, for instance, so that's specific to GA. There's a difference between how it tracks the analytics. Google is using client-side techniques, if you will. Sitecore is using server-side techniques. So sometimes that helps if you're getting different numbers. You kind of naturally have a second opinion, at least for where the metrics they're capturing are the same. There is some overlap. For instance, they're both going to count visits. Overall, you're going to have more dimensions, right? You have some of the ones out of the box that GA has, and you have everything that Sitecore has. So you're getting more data, which is, more data is always better. So long as you have time to disseminate it and do something important with it, which is going to give you more opportunities to tie those campaign dollars and activities to ROI. But there can be challenges as well, right? You've now got two major platforms to manage. And so, one way to look at it is, let's say we're creating a new landing page or a new section of the site or product rollout. While we're planning that project, we're going to think about how will we track this in Google? How will we track this in Sitecore? It's two separate questions. They may have the same answer, they may have different answers, but the long and short of it is you're planning to use both and you're nurturing both systems. It's going to be a little bit extra effort, but you're going to have the benefit of having both platforms in concert. So David, I'll hand it back to you to talk us through the solution.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is just a high-level overview of how the solution works. As you can see, we have initiating from our browser, we have a page request, that's number one here, that's being sent to Sitecore. The response that comes back from Sitecore is going to include the Google Tag Manager script, which gets run in the browser. That GTM script is going to include all the listeners, or essentially all the tags that we've configured in GTM. And at that point, the browser is fully loaded, and we're ready for some event to take place. So when the user initiates some event, it could be a button click, it could be a campaign link, it could be any kind of event that we can track in JavaScript, essentially. Then what happens is our GTM script is going to fire off a beacon to Google Analytics, and that's the normal part that usually happens with a GTM integration. But the magic here comes because we're going to send the exact same web analytics to Sitecore. So essentially every event that happens in the browser gets sent to both Google Analytics and Sitecore at the same time. So
Awesome.
let's walk through a demo, and Walt, can you set us up for that?
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. But no demo goes without a little bit of a business case. So for all you marketers out there, we know you're being asked to do more with less, especially these days, and also being asked to report on, what's the impact of your investments, right? So in this example, this is a retail commerce site, and they're going to roll out a new product line, and they're going to advertise on different channels, like maybe on television, Google Ads, social media. So they need to be able to report back. This isn't like the old days where you could just spend money on campaigns and then you move on to the next thing. You need to show results, and we're just seeing more of that in the competitive landscape nowadays. So we wanted to put this solution together to help you accomplish that.
All right, so this is just an abbreviated version of the demo that we did at the symposium. In this demo, so we know that from the business case that the CMO wants to track campaigns. So the first thing we're going to do is, as you can see here on our homepage in the URL, I have underlined at the top a campaign code coming into Sitecore, and we've set up a GTM tag to fire off whenever it sees that particular campaign code and send a campaign tracking event to both Google Analytics and Sitecore. So right as soon as the user browses to our site, we're already capturing analytics and synchronizing to both Sitecore and Google Analytics. We also tagged the Shop Now button because the CMO is interested in seeing how users flow through the site and how effective the campaign is in getting them through that conversion funnel. So now we'll click the Shop Now button, and that's going to take us to our next page here. So here again, CMO is interested in understanding that flow from in the beginning of the campaign through to conversion. So we're going to track that Add to Cart button. And when we click it, it's going to add our product to the cart.
So that's creating a little bit of a funnel, right, David? I mean, I've got the ad goes out and maybe 1 million people see it and 100,000 click on it, and maybe half of those folks add it to cart. So it's a nice little funnel there that you're building to do some modeling down the road.
Yep. Now on this next page, we want to be able to personalize the experience for our users. And we also want to be able to capture personal information about the people so that we can better personalize the experience for them. So on this page, not only have we tagged the continue to payment button, because that's of course a critical part of our conversion funnel, but we're also capturing this user's first name, last name, email, job title, and phone number optionally, so we can put that into Sitecore and see it in the experience profile. All right. So then in the next step here, we've made it all the way through our checkout process. And of course, we need to capture the conversion or the outcome, as it's called in Sitecore, or the transaction, as it's called in Google Analytics. We want to capture that transaction amount and make sure that we relate that to the campaign. So that's a quick demo of how we tagged the site. Now let's look at some of the reports that we can actually generate with our solution. So in Google Analytics, as I've mentioned, since we're sending the exact same metrics into both Sitecore and Google Analytics, we can see it in real time here, in GA real time. You can see our events flowing into the site. Next slide. And we can also see our campaigns and our conversions in Google Analytics. So this is all great. But let's take a look at the Sitecore side, because now that we are synchronizing things between Google Analytics and Sitecore, we should have the same data on both platforms. And yes, as we can see here, we have our campaigns. We have our transactions and outcomes flowing in. And as a bonus, we're also able to tag our users and get this experience profile information flowing into Sitecore. And this is the real differentiator between GA and Sitecore. As Walt mentioned up front, this is the kind of thing that you can tag with GTM now and see in Sitecore that you can't get the same information in GA.
Very nice.
So, yeah, let me just wrap up the demo here with some of the key benefits that we get from this integration. So not only really does it synchronize GA and Sitecore analytics together, but you know, the main thing that's exciting to a lot of people is it gives marketers the opportunity to do this Sitecore tagging without needing a developer. So whether or not you're using Google Analytics, even if you just use this to tag your Sitecore events, there's power for marketers there. We can tag page events, goals, campaigns, downloads, etc. using GTM. I mentioned experience profile. We can send that user information into Sitecore. And now that both platforms have the same metrics, marketers are going to potentially use both platforms more fully because they can both be equally trusted now.
So that seems like a lot of things to track and manage from a planning perspective. Do you have a tool that you use to do that?
Yeah, there are some learnings that RDA has had over implementing this. A couple of the really important ones are just focusing on the important. So what I mean by that is having a good, strong digital strategy that you're tagging. Don't go just tag everything in the world just because you can. Really understand what your business objectives are, have a good digital strategy that builds towards that, and then use this integration to get the KPIs and the metrics that you need. And secondly, effective communications. And, you know, a big part of that is clear documentation. So we've come up with a method of communicating between marketers and analysts or developers that do the tagging. It's sort of an Excel spreadsheet that you give it to a marketer, show them how to use it, they fill in the blanks, and that basically gives the analyst or the developer everything they need to go tag the site. So we found that to be very effective for managing complexity. And strong development processes, you know, you have to treat this like a software development program. You can have good naming conventions and scripting standards for your GTM scripts. You should, you know, keep your code in source code control just like you would for any software project. You can have test environments that you move your code through and your scripts through before you get to production. So take it seriously, have good, strong development processes, and that will be very beneficial. And lastly, be courageous. Just get out there, do it. You know, if you put this into play on your site, there are lots of benefits to be had. So take the plunge and get into it.
Yeah, and I can always start small, right? I can just tag a campaign or just one button click and work my way up from there.
Absolutely.
Thanks, David. That was awesome. So that concludes what we wanted to discuss today. So we hope you found this helpful. We'll try to condense it, make it quick and easy. We know everyone's time is precious, and you have a lot of information in your inbox, I'm sure, in social media accounts, etc. So if you'd like to discuss it further, take it offline. You can get in touch with us. The contact information you showed previously, or visit our website. We'd love to do a workshop with you to talk more about analytics, whether it's this solution or something similar.